Today, we're talking about one of Hollywood's great storytellers, Rob Reiner. This is an explainer about a truly remarkable career, sure, but it's also about its shocking and just tragic final chapter.
For decades, the name Rob Reiner pretty much meant warmth, wit, and humanity. He made stories that didn't just entertain us, they really felt like they became part of our lives.
I mean, just look at this list. These aren't just films, right? They're cultural touchstones. Stand By Me taught us about what real friendship looks like. The Princess Bride gave us a whole new language for love. And When Harry Met Sally asked all the questions about men and women we were all thinking. The man was an absolute master of his craft.
And that's the brutal irony at the heart of all this. The man who crafted so many perfect, happy endings was denied one himself. The narrative he so carefully built for the whole world was just violently ripped apart by the reality of his own life.
It's the question that just stunned everyone back in late 2025. And to really understand the magnitude of it all, we have to look at the facts of the case, the life he lived, and the art that now seems so tragically prophetic.
So to understand what happened, we have to start with the headline facts, the things that are undisputed. This is the foundation of the story, based on what law enforcement and the first news reports told us.
The details are just grim. On December 14th, Reiner and his wife of 36 years, Michelle, were found dead. The cause was brutal, violent. And within hours, police had their prime suspect in custody, their own son, Nick, who now faces charges of first-degree murder. It's an almost unimaginable family tragedy.
Now, it is absolutely crucial to note that the legal process is really just beginning. Nick Reiner's attorney has warned everyone against a rush to judgment. So for this explainer, we're going to stick only to what's been publicly reported and established. We're not going to speculate on how this case will turn out.
To really get why this news was such a shockwave, you have to remember who Rob Reiner was. He wasn't just another director. He was a giant in American film and TV.
First, he got famous as Meathead on All in the Family, winning 2 Emmys for it. But then he stepped behind the camera and went on what might be one of the greatest directing streaks in Hollywood history. Seriously. From the genius mockumentary Spinal Tap to the timeless romance of When Harry Met Sally, all the way to the Oscar-nominated drama of A Few Good Men. His range was just incredible.
And yet, he always had this great sense of humor about his own fame. He knew that for a whole generation of people, he would forever be Archie Bunker's son-in-law. This quote, it just perfectly captures that self-aware, down-to-earth personality that everybody loved.
But if we're trying to find any kind of insight into this awful tragedy, we have to look closer at his work, and specifically at his most personal and, looking back, his most haunting film.
So back in 2015, Reiner directed a movie called Being Charlie. It wasn't one of his big blockbusters, it was this small, kind of gritty indie drama. And here's the crucial thing. It was co-written by his son Nick Reiner, and it was based directly on Nick's own years-long battle with substance abuse.
The parallels between the movie and their real life, you just can't ignore them. The main character, Charlie, he's a stand-in for Nick. The father is a famous performer who thought about running for governor, just like Rob Reiner. So the film wasn't just art, it was a very public attempt to deal with their private pain and try to write a new, more hopeful story for their family.
And at the time, as The Guardian pointed out, the film really felt like an act of therapy, an act of hope. It was a father and a son working together trying to write a better ending for their real-life story, believing, or at least really hoping, that the worst was finally over.
But now, in the wake of the murders, that film is being seen in a completely different, much, much darker light. It's not just a story about addiction anymore. It's really the central question for anyone trying to make sense of this. The film was supposed to be a window into their family struggles, but now you're forced to ask, what did we not see?
As this quote from The Guardian puts it so bluntly, the movie has completely transformed. What was once a personal drama has become this harrowing document. It's hard to watch it now without searching for clues, for warnings, for anything that might explain the horror that was to come.
And this is the most chilling part. The character of Charlie in the movie is sympathetic. He struggles with drugs, he lies, he disappoints his family, all the hallmarks of addiction. But there's no hint of violence, no sign of the kind of rage that would lead to murder. The story in the film is about addiction, not some deep-seated psychosis. Which means the story they chose to tell on screen was, in the end, incomplete. As The Guardian so powerfully concludes, it felt like the film was avoiding some deeper, greater pain. And now, it seems that unimaginable pain has finally caught up to their story.
So where does all this leave the legacy of Rob Reiner? He was so much more than just a filmmaker, and now every part of his life is being viewed through this tragic final lens.
I mean, besides his own directing, he co-founded Castle Rock Entertainment. You know, the company that gave us The Shawshank Redemption and Seinfeld. He was a tireless political activist, fighting for marriage equality and for early childhood education. He was a major, outspoken liberal voice in American culture.
And now we come to the final haunting piece of this story. Right before his death, Rob Reiner, a lifelong storyteller, poured his energy into one last project, a podcast trying to solve the most famous American murder mystery of all time.
And here you find this just profound irony. His last act as a public storyteller was co-hosting Who Killed JFK, a deep dive into evidence and conspiracy. In the end, he became the victim in his own murder mystery, a story where the search for truth and understanding has only just begun.
This leaves us with a really difficult question. Rob Reiner's films gave millions of people joy and laughter and comfort, and that art will endure. But will his legacy ultimately be defined by the light he put into the world or by the darkness that consumed his final chapter? That's a question we'll all be wrestling with for a long, long time.